Hello, my dear students. Welcome you all to Sri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. I am your mentor and your friend for the subject biology, and I will be taking the zoology section, that is animal science. My dear students, we have completed animal tissues in the last lectures, and today we are going to start with structural organization of animals, in which we are going to start with the morphology and the anatomy of Periplaneta americana, that is cockroach. Okay, so we are going to start with morphology and anatomy of cockroach. So welcome, and we will move forward to the next slide. Yeah. So what is the systematic position? I mean, what is the position of cockroach in its phylum, subphylum, kingdom? So kingdom, it's Animalia only. So the phylum which on to which cockroach belongs to is Orthopoda, I mean jointed appendages, jointed appendages, right? The class is Insecta. It belongs to class Insecta. Order is Dictyopteran. The order of cockroaches Diptyopteran. Diptyopteran. Family is Blattidae. Family is Blattidae. Genus Periplaneta. Species Americana. Common name cockroach. Phylum is Orthopoda. Class is Insecta. Okay. Order Dictyopteran. Order is Dictyopteran. Family is Blattidae. Family is Blattidae. Genus is Periplaneta. And species is Americana. Species Americana. Genus Periplaneta. Family Blattidae. Order Dictyopteran. Class Insecta. Phylum Orthopoda. Okay. And the common name is understood? Now, coming to next slide. There are two species of cockroaches which are commonly found in India. There are two species of cockroaches which are basically commonly found in India. Periplaneta americana and Blatta orientalis. Okay, Periplaneta americana and Blatta orientalis. These are the two common species which are found in India. Periplaneta americana is the largest and most common species. Okay, Periplaneta americana. It is the largest and most common species of cockroach. The generic name Periplaneta was given by Burmester. In 1830. Okay. So Periplaneta simply means the organism which is widely distributed, which is distributed everywhere. So it is omnipresent. Okay. So now we are going to distinguish with some of the characteristics of Periplaneta americana and Blatta orientalis. Okay. So I'll write here Periplaneta americana. And here Blatta orientalis. Understood? The first differentiating feature is Periplaneta americana is long in comparison to Blatta orientalis, with around 5 centimeter long. 5 centimeter long. It is reddish brown in color. Reddish brown in color. Understood? Blatta orientalis 2 to 5 centimeter long. Okay, and it is dark brown in color. Dark brown in color. Okay, then both male and female in case of Periplaneta, they have large, well-developed wings. Both male and female have large, well-developed wings covering the entire abdomen. Covering the entire abdomen. Okay. Plata orientalis, the wings of the male are shorter. Wings of male are shorter. While the female, the wings are rudimentary. Okay. Wings of male are shorter than body. And females have rudimentary wings. Rudimentary wings. Understood? So Periplata americana, the length is more in comparison to Plata orientalis. Periplata americana, it is reddish brown in color, and Plata orientalis dark brown in color. Okay. In Periplata americana, both male and female, they have large and well-developed wings. Okay, covering the entire abdomen. In case of Plata orientalis, the wings they don't cover the entire abdomen and they are shorter than the body. Females they have rudimentary wings. Okay. Periglata americana, they are, it is a native of America and has spread to the other parts of the world. Native of America. And spread to other parts of the world. And Plata orientalis, native of Asia. Understood? So these 3 points you can differentiate between Periplata americana and Plata orientalis. Okay. Coming to next, habit and habitat of Periplata. Okay. Cockroaches, they are nocturnal, and they are the organisms which come outside during night. Nocturnal, night feeders. Okay. And they are omnivores. Okay. They can eat both, in animals, shorter or smaller organisms, and the plants, the smaller or leaves, herbs, and scavenger as well. So cockroach is a common nocturnal omnivorous scavenger. It is nocturnal because it prefer darkness to come out. Okay, and they are active during night. Okay, during daytime they used to hide themselves. Okay, they are omnivorous in diet, feeding on almost all kinds of food matter, including human food, paper, leather, cloth, even dead bodies of their fellows. So dead bodies of their fellows means cannibalism. They also show cannibalism. Okay, they also show cannibalism. It prefers dark, warm corners of kitchen. It prefers dark, warm corners of kitchen, godowns, underground drains, and places where food and humid atmospheres are available. So wherever food and humid atmosphere is available, especially the godowns, dark, warm corners of kitchen, underground drains, okay, their narrow and flattened body enables them to slip into narrow creeks. Okay, creeks means a kind of which can be seen like a slit, a small opening. Okay, so their narrow and flattened body enables them to slip into narrow creeks. Okay, slit or cracks. Okay, and cervix. Okay, and services. Cockroaches are now distributed throughout the world. They probably originated in southern Asia or Africa and became the dominant fossils of the Carboniferous age. Please remember this. They become the dominant fossil of the Carboniferous age. Understood? Being omnivore and scavenger, they devoid any kind of food. They devour any kind of food and even the dead bodies of some animals and their fellow members as well. Cannibalism is often seen in some cockroaches. Okay, so they are the dominant fossils of Carboniferous age. They are some of them they are cannibalic. Okay, I mean they feed on the dead bodies of their own fellow members. Nocturnal, scavenger, omnivore. Okay, their ability to walk rapidly and the production of pungent secretion from their abdominal glands. Their ability to walk rapidly. Okay, and the production of a pungent secretion from their abdominal glands has been regarded as their defensive mechanism. Defensive mechanism. Okay. So cockroaches, they can run faster and their production of pungent secretion from their abdominal glands, they actually helps in the defense mechanism. Okay. And that is why they are considered as cursorial. Okay. Cursorial. Cursorial. I mean they can walk fast. Okay. They run fast. Very fast. So cockroaches, they run very fast, mean they are cursorial, they are cannibalic, they are nocturnal, they are omnivore, and they are scavengers, right? Now coming to next slide, unisexual, they are unisexual, okay? Mean they show sexual dimorphism. They show sexual dimorphism. Understood? Mean both male and female sexes are found in different individuals. Okay, sexual dimorphism. They are oviparous, egg laying. Young cockroaches, they are known as nymphs. Young cockroaches, they resemble the adults, okay, and they are known as nymphs. Nymphs, they resemble almost to the adults, but there are some characteristics by which they can mark a difference. Nymphs, they are small, pale in color, and wings are absent. Okay, so nymphs, they are differentiative, they are differentiable than the adults in terms of that they are small, they are pale in color, and their wings are absent. Nymphs undergo rhythmic molting. Molting means acidosis, shedding of their own previous skin and acquiring the new one. So nymphs undergo molting, okay, or acidosis, in which they cast out their older skin. Okay, shedding or casting of older skin. Is it clear? Nymphs, they undergo molting or they cast out their older skin. Now, the body of cockroach is dorso-ventrally. The body of cockroach is dorso-ventrally flattened. The body of cockroach is dorso-ventrally flattened. Elongated. It is dorso-ventrally flattened, elongated, and reddish brown in color. The body of cockroach is dorso-ventrally flattened, elongated, and reddish brown in color. The males are usually 35 to 40 millimeters in length, while that of females are 29 to 37 millimeter in length. Okay, so body of the cockroach is dorso-ventrally flattened, elongated, and reddish brown in color. The males are usually 35 to 40 millimeters in length. Males are usually 35 to 40 millimeters in length, while that of females are 29 to 37 millimeters in length. Okay. They are dorso-ventrally flattened, elongated, and reddish brown in color. Males are around 35 to 40 millimeters in length, okay, while that females are 29 to 37 millimeters in length. Next slide. This is a slide exhibiting the external features of cockroach, okay, in which you can see antenna, compound eyes, mesothorax, thorax, prothorax, mesothorax, and metathorax. Then foreleg, middle leg, hind legs. These are the walking legs. Okay. Anal cerci, anal style. I will tell you each and every pattern. Okay. Abdomen. The body is actually divided into head, thorax, and abdomen. Head. thorax and abdomen. When if we will talk about the segments or the body divisions, the body of cockroach is distinctly divided into head, thorax, and abdomen. Understood? Head, thorax, and abdomen. Okay. Now, the head, thorax, and abdomen, they are basically consisting of different, you know, we can say segments, and these segments are fused. Okay, so the segments which are found in case of cockroach, they are fused. Okay, rather in case of earthworm, you got to know about the metameric segmentation. So head and thorax in case of cockroach and some of the other insects, it forms a joint function which is known as what? Cephalothorax, which is known as what? Cephalothorax. So head, thorax, and abdomen, they can be distinctly separated in case of cockroach. Understood? Is that clear? Yeah. Coming to next slide, general characteristics. It is also known as American or common cockroach or ship cockroach. Okay, it is commonly known as American or common cockroach or ship cockroach. Size is about 34 to 53 millimeters long. 34 to 53 millimeters long, with wings that extends beyond the abdomen of males. Okay, so cockroaches, their average body size is around 34 to 53 millimeters in long, and wings, they are extended beyond the abdomen of males. Understood? Cockroach of genus Bellata has small wings in males but vestigial wings in females. The Blatta orientalis, okay, the males, they have wings but they are shorter than body, and females, they have vestigial wings or rudimentary wings. Omnivore, nocturnal, cursorial, fast runner animal. Cockroach can run around 130 centimeter per second at 25 degrees Celsius. Okay. Number of chromosomes 34. It also exhibits cannibalism, feeds on their fellows occasionally. It is already told you. Okay. So it is also known as American or common cockroach or ship cockroach. Size around 34 to 53 millimeter long, with wings that extends beyond the abdomen of males. Cockroach of genus Blatta orientalis, the females, they don't have working wings, rudimentary wings, they are present. Okay, vestigial wings are there. And Blatta, the males, they have small wings in their body. They are omnivore, nocturnal, and cursorial. Cockroach can run 130 centimeter per second at 25 degrees Celsius. Number of chromosomes 34. They also exhibit cannibalism, feeds on their fellows occasionally. Now coming to next, yeah, that was actually I was yeah, this slide. So head, thorax, and abdomen. So body is divided into head, thorax, and abdomen. In case of adults, there are total 14 segments. 14 segments. Okay. Head, all the 6 segments are fused. In case of head, all six segments are fused to form one. Thorax, 3 segments. And abdomen, 10 segments. So how many? 10 plus 3, 13, 13 plus 1, 14, right? But in case of embryological period, head 6, no fusion was there. Thorax 3 and abdomen 11, 20 segments in case of embryo. So in case of embryo, 20 segments. In case of adult, 14 segments. Okay, is it understood? Now coming to next slide. The entire body is covered by a hard chitinous or chitinous exoskeleton. The entire body is covered by a hard chitinous exoskeleton, which is brown in color. Okay. Exoskeleton of each segment consists of a chitin plate or a chitin plate known as sclerite. So exoskeleton of each segment consists of a chitin plate which is known as what? Sclerite. Sclerites, they join each other by a flexible membrane known as orthoidal membrane or articular membrane. So sclerites, they join each other by a flexible membrane known as orthoidal membrane or articular membrane. Exoskeleton of each segment consists of a chitin plate known as sclerites. Okay. Entire body is covered by a hard chitinous exoskeleton, which is brown in color. The entire body is covered by a hard chitinous exoskeleton, which is brown in color. Each segment of exoskeleton consists of chitin plate known as sclerites. Okay, these sclerites are joined with each other through articular or orthoidal membrane. Sclerites of dorsal side, tergum or tergite. Okay, so on dorsal side, sclerites, they are known as what? Tergum or tergites. Sclerites of ventral side, they are known as sternum or sternite. And sclerites of lateral side, pleurons or pleurites. Okay, so there are three categories of sclerites. Okay, one on the lateral side, they are known as what? Pleurons, P. One on the ventral side means at the front, at the front, at the front part. Okay, that is known as what? Tergite. And one at the back part, at the back part, that is known as what? Tergite. So you can write dorsal tergum, ventral sternum, and lateral pleural. Okay. DTVSLP, dorsal tergite, ventral sclerite, and lateral pleurite. Dorsal tergite, ventral sclerite, and lateral pleurite. Okay. In this way you can remember. Body divisions, body of periplaneta is segmented and organized to form three distinct specialized parts, each of which is called tagma. So tagma is basically the parts which are assigned, okay, after a division. I mean, that distinctly the specialized parts of periplaneta, they are divided into three main, categories or three tagma. The three tagma are head, thorax, and abdomen. So as we are having head, thorax, and abdomen, they are also having head, thorax, and abdomen. All of these are enclosed by exoskeleton. All of these, they are enclosed by exoskeleton. Each tagma comprises of several structures. Every single tagma comprises of several structures, many structures. Like this is a diagram which is given. You can see the head part, antenna, foreleg, middle leg, hind leg, abdomen, anal style, anal cerci. Then these are the membranous wings. Okay. Then walking legs are there. Metathorax, mesothorax, and prothorax and compound eye. Okay. This is the dorsal view. The ventral view looks like this. This is the understood? Yeah. Is it clear? Now, so these exoskeleton. This one is what tergite. This one sternite. Sternite. Okay. Now coming to next, head. Head. It is the anterior most region of the body. Anterior most region. It is triangular and hypogenathous, bent towards at an angle of 90 degree. Mean this is abdomen, this is thorax, and at an angle of this is mouth. So at an angle of 90 degrees. So hypogenathous means it is bent towards at an angle of 90 degrees. Okay. Then head is made up of the fusion of 6 segments. It is made up of fusion of 6 segments. Sclerites of the head join fully and form head capsule. The sclerites of the head, they join completely, okay, and forms head capsule, okay. So head is made up of by the fusion of 6 segments, okay, and the sclerites of head, they join fully to form head capsule. Top part of the head is called vertex. The top part is known as vertex, and on the vertex, a chitin plate present called occiput. Okay, so top part of the head is known as what, vertex, and at the on the vertex, a chitin plate which is present known as what, occiput. On the lateral side of the head apex, one pair of compound eye, each compound eye with above 2000 units called ommatidia. Okay. So on the lateral side of the head apex, one pair of compound eyes, okay, right and left, okay, each with above 2000 units known as what, ommatidia or ommatidium. A small light colored spot called fenestrae or ocular spot, which actually present on the upper dorsal surface close to the eye. Upper dorsal surface close to the eye. So a small light colored spot called fenestrae or ocular spot is located on the upper dorsal surface of each eye. In insect, it functions as a photoreceptor. In insects, the fenestrae or ocular spot, it functions as a photoreceptor, but in cockroach, it is inactive and called vestigial scintilla. Okay. So in other insects, the fenestrae or the ossicular or ocular spot, it functions, it works, okay, as a photoreceptor organ, but in case of cockroach, it is vestigial, okay, or we can say the vestigial simple eye. Is it understood? Yeah. It is formed by the fusion of 6 segments which have lost their external demarcation. In the segments, they are so well fused that they lost their external demarcation. The exoskeleton covering the head is called head capsule and includes 5 sclerites. It has been already told to you. Understood? So head basically consists of 5 sclerites which are fused together. Okay. When 6 segments are fused together and they are covered by 5 sclerites, and these 5 sclerites form what? The head capsule. Understood? Now, coming to next is sclerites. Okay. So basically, the head is covered by sclerites and beards. It is having sense organs, mouth parts, and mouth. Okay. So sclerites. A pair of epicranial plates or occipital sclerites covering dorsal and posterior parts. It covers dorsal and posterior parts and joined in front by an inverted Y-shaped coronal or epicranial suture. Okay. So a pair of epicranial plates, so basically the sclerites, okay. So these sclerites, they form head capsules after fusion, okay. And the top of the head capsule is known as what? Vertex. At the top, vertex is there. Okay. The vertex is divided by a lambda-shaped epicranial suture. Okay. So this epicranial suture is lambda-shaped. Okay. Inverted Y or lambda. Lambda-shaped coronal or epicranial suture. Okay. So this suture, epicranial suture, it basically helps to divide into 2 epicranial plates. Okay. It helps to divide in 2 epicranial plates. Second, a single piece formed by the fusion of 2 exoskeletons, frons and claps. The latter becoming or forming the lower part of the face. Okay. So frons and claps, they later forming the lower part of the face and performing different functions. Okay. So I'll repeat it once again. There is a triangular plate which is known as what, frons, and it is found in the front of the epicranial plates. Okay. There is a triangular plate which is known as what, frons, which is present at the front of the epicranial plates. Okay. The frons is followed by a rectangular plate. Frons, then it is followed by clefts. Okay. And now clefts and frons, they form frontoclepsal suture. Okay. So frontoclepsal suture. clepsule suture. Please check the spelling once again. Okay. The two sides of the head are covered by two vertical plates called the cheeks or gennae. Okay. The cheeks, they are equivalent to gennae. The two sides of the head, they are covered by two vertical plates known as what? Cheeks or gennae. Lying below the eyes. On each side, the gennae is separated by the frons. On each side, gennae is separated by the frons by frontogenial suture. By a frontogenial suture, and the labrum is attached with the distal border of the clavus. Okay. So sclerites. First, the epicranial plates or epicranial sutures help to divide, okay, the vertex into a lambda-shaped structure. Okay. Now, a triangular plate frons, which is followed by a rectangular plate clefts, they make a fron or clepsal suture. This is which is present between the frons and clefts. A movable cutaneous flap. There is a movable cutaneous flap. Labrum hangs over the lower edge of the clefts. Okay. Labrocleptal suture is found between the clefts and labrum. Two cheek sclerites, the gennae lie vertically just below the eyes at the lateral side. Okay. So on each side, two gennae are separated by from the frons and they are lie by the frontogenal suture and labrums attached to the distal border of the. So you can see this is a lambda shaped epicranial suture. Okay, this part is the vertex. These are two epicranial plates for occiput. Okay, there is a oscillar or spot of fenestrae. This one. ठीक है? Understood? Then we have antennal socket, gennae, mandibles, maxillary, labial, and labial. Understood. Now coming to next, compound eyes. One on each side of the head, a pair of prominent sessile eyes mean free. Sessile eyes are present. Okay. So on each side of the head, a prominent sessile, okay, eyes mean free to rotate, free to move. Okay, are present. These sessile eyes are free to move, but they are attached. Developing body. The two eyes occupy much of the anterolateral wall of the head. They mainly occupy anterolateral wall of the head. Each eye is bean shaped. Every eye is bean shaped and compound in nature. Okay. So there are two eyes which are present on the anterolateral wall of the head. Each eye is bean shaped and compound in nature. The external surface is marked by several polygonal facets, each of which denotes a single visual unit, the ommatidium. So ommatidium is known as what? Single visual unit. Okay. The external surface is marked with several polygonal faces. There are many polygonal, structures, facets, each which denotes a single visual unit, which is known as what? Ommatidium. The eyes are larger in males than in females. Okay. The males, they are having larger eyes in comparison to females. So this is the compound eye, which is made up of 2000 ommatidia. Okay. So compound eye, it lies basically at the it covers most of the anterolateral wall, and around it contains 2000 ommatidia. Okay, in a single ommatidium. Understood? Now, antenna. It is a filiform or thread-like structure. It is a filiform or thread-like structure. Filiform or thread-like structure, okay, which basically, originates from antennal sockets. You can see the picture. These are the antennal sockets. These are the antennal sockets. Okay. These are the antennal sockets. Understood? Second, all these sensory receptors present on the antenna help in monitoring the environment, help to adapt or receive the stimuli from the environment. Each antenna extending forwards from an external socket located dorsally upon the head capsule near the compound eye of its side. These are long filamentous, unbranched, and free moving. Long filamentous, unbranched, and free moving. Understood? So all these sensory receptors, they are present on the antenna, help in monitoring the environment. Each antenna extending towards from the antennal socket located dorsally upon head capsule near the compound outlet side. They are long, filamentous, unbranched and three-level. Okay, they are long, filamentous, unbranched and three-level. Antennae contains podomeres. Podomeres, they are the segments which are present in the antennae. These segments, they make up the antennae. And sensory bristles are tactile in function. And sensory bristles are tactile in function. So antennae says what? On the lateral side of the head, one pair of antennae are present, act as a main receptor of touch, temperature, vibration. Touch, temperature, and vibration. All these sensory receptors present on the antennae help in monitoring the environment. Okay. Each antenna extending forwards from an external socket located dorsally upon head capsule near the compound. Antenna contains podomeres. These podomeres, they are the segments of antennae, okay, and they have sensory bristles which is tactile in function. Ocellus. Ocelli, they are the paired circular areas, one on each side of the eye, near the base of the antenna, just base at the base of the antenna, ocelli or paired circular structures are present. Okay, they are considered as, I mean, they don't have, or they are not like compound eyes. They don't make, or they are not responsible for the vision. Okay, but they can considered as the simple vestigial simple eyes, and they help in responsible in detecting light. So ocelli, they are the paired circular areas on each side of the eye near the base of the antenna. Near the base of the antenna, you can see in the picture. I'll show you. Yeah, at the base of the antenna. Okay, you can see here. This is the compound eye. This is the compound eye. Okay, so just proximal to the compound eye, we have what? Ocellus or ocelli. Is that understood? Yeah. Now coming to next, with this picture, I'll explain ocellus, filiform antennae. These are filiform antennae. Okay. Ocellus, compound eyes, the maxilla, mandible, labrum, okay, and labium. This is labium, the lower lip, labrum, the upper lip. Okay. Labium, the lower lip, is also known as second maxilla. Understood? Now we will study about the mouth parts in detail. Okay, no need to worry. Yeah. Mouth. Mouth is basically placed at the lower end of the head. At the lower end of the head, mouth is present. It is provided with several appendages. It is provided with several appendages and other associated structures. It is provided with many appendages and other associated structures, which are collectively called as mouth parts and trophi. Okay, or trophy. Trophy means trophic food. Understood? So it is placed at the lower end of the head. It is provided with several appendages and other associated structures, which are collectively called as mouth parts or trophy. Trophy. Okay. The mouth part type is biting and chewing type. Biting and chewing type of mouth parts are present in case of cockroach. Okay. They help to search and hold the food matter. They help to search and hold the food. The mouth parts of the cockroach are composed of mandible, which is paired, maxilla, which is paired, and labium, which is paired. So mandible paired, maxilla paired, labium paired. Unpaired are hypopharynx and labrum. Understood? Is that clear? Okay. So mouth parts, they are basically composed of a paired mandible, right and left mandible. Then it composed of the maxilla, which is also paired. Okay. Then the labium part, which is also paired, or lower lip. Okay. Then hypopharynx and labrum, which are unpaired. Understood? Hypopharynx is also known as lingua. I'll write down. also known as lingua. Okay. Coming to next, the cavity which is formed due to the mouth parts, mean these all mouth parts, they enclose the cavity, and that cavity is known as what? Preoral cavity. Or Siberium. So all the mouth parts, they enclose the preoral cavity or Siberium. Okay, understood? Mouth parts are biting and chewing type. A cavity formed due to the mouth parts is preoral cavity, also known as Siberium. Hypopharynx is known as lingua, which is unpaired. Labrum is unpaired. Labium, maxilla, and mandible, they all are paired. Now we will study in detail each type. Mandibles. Mandibles, they are paired structures, as we have discussed before. Present on each side of the mouth, they are present on the each side of the mouth. There is a soft cuticular area in mandible. There is a soft cuticular area at the base of the mandible, which is called submolar region. That is known as what? Submolar region. Okay. So mandible, they are paired structures. They are present on each side of the mouth. There is a soft cuticular area at the base of the mandible. At the base of the mandible, there is a soft cuticular area which is known as what? Submolar region. The remaining part of the mandible, it is having two surfaces. Okay, the remaining part of the mandible, apart from this submolar region, which is having two surfaces, and these surfaces are known as what? Condyles. They are known as what? Condyles. On each outer basal angle. Okay. So at the outer basal angles of mandibles, there are two condyles which are present. Okay. So from this first point, you have to remember that mandibles are paired on each side of the mouth of right and left. There is a soft cuticular region which is known as what? Submolar region. And at the outer basal angle, at each outer basal angle, the mandible bears two surfaces which are known as what? Condyles. One condyle articulates with the clefts of the head. The head is projected with the clefts. So one of the condyle articulates with the clefts of the head, and the other articulates with the guinea, means cheeks. Guinea means cheeks. So one condyle articulates with the clefts, and the other condyle articulates with the guinea. Guinea means cheeks. The inner border of the mandible is sharply serrated. Serration, ridges. So the inner border of the mandible is sharply serrated. Okay, it is having ridges. The teeth of the left mandible lies dorsal to the teeth of the right mandible. The teeth of the left mandible are behind, dorsal to the teeth of the right mandible. And both of them work like a saw or cut the food into pieces. Both of them, they work like a saw and cut into pieces. The teeth of the left mandible lie dorsal to the right mandible, and they work as a saw to cut the food into pieces. It is divisible into grinding and incising region. Okay, so the mandible is having grinding and incising region. Okay, so you can see the grinding and incising region of mandible. Inner margin of mandible bears teeth. Inner margin of mandible, they have teeth. Okay, while on the upper inner edge, there is a soft lobe which knows what? Prostheca. Prostheca is present. Okay, so the inner margin of the mandible, they are basically having teeth. The teeth are present on the inner margins. Okay, understood? And the left side and right side teeth arrangement is like a saw, which helps in the cutting and grinding of the food. The teeth of left mandible, they are dorsal to the teeth of right mandible. Understood? Two condyles are there. One condyle articulates with clefts and one condyle articulates with guinea. Okay. Now, prosthetica is present, okay, which is present on the upper inner edge of the mandible. Inner margin is having teeth. Mandible move with the help of adductor and abductor muscles. There are two muscles which help to move mandible, adductor and abductor muscles. Okay, the adductor and abductor muscles, they actually help to move mandible. Is that clear? Now, coming to next slide, labrum. Labrum is also called the upper lip. Labrum is known as what? The upper lip. It is a broad chitinous flap, made up of chitin, which hangs from the distal end of the claps. Okay, which basically hangs on the distal end from the distal end of the claps. So labrum is the upper lip, which basically hangs from the distal end of the claps. So where claps is present, the labrum, it hangs from the distal end. I'll show you in the picture. This is claps and this is labrum. This yellowish part is labrum, which is hanging from the claps. Okay, yeah, this is the labrum. Understood? This yellow part, labrum. Okay. Now, a thin plate epipharynx is fused to inner surface of the labrum. Okay, there is a thin plate epipharynx which is fused to the inner surface of the labrum. There is a thin plate epipharynx, okay, which is fused to the inner surface of the labrum. Epipharynx bears the organ of taste. So please make it very clear that epipharynx bears the organ of taste. The labrum holds the food particles during feeding. Labrum, it helps to hold the food particles for feeding. Okay, so, and the epipharynx, they bears the organ of taste. Epipharynx is fused to the inner surface of labrum. The epipharynx is basically fused to the inner surface of labrum. Okay, now coming to next slide, maxillae or the first maxilla. Okay, so maxilla or the first maxilla, they lie just beneath the mandibles. Just beneath the mandibles they lie. Okay, on the either side of the head capsule. So means they lie on the either side of the head capsule. So basically, maxillae, they are paired. So they lie on the either side of the head capsule. Each maxillae consists of three parts. There are three parts which are present in the each maxillae. Protopodite, protopodite. Protopodite is a basal portion at the base and made up of two parts. At the proximal, cardo, and distal stipes. So protopodite, it is the basal portion at the base. Protopodite is present, and protopodite is further divided into proximal, cardo, and distal stipes. Okay, at the forward end, cardo is there, and at the distal end, stipes are there. So protopodite is basically having proximal, cardo, distal stipes. Okay, endopodite, it arises from the inner side of the stipes. The stipes, these stipes, the inner side of the stipes, they make endopodite and consist of two parts. So inner part of the stipes, they form endopodite and it is having two parts. The outer broad hood-like galea, the outer broad hood-like galea, and an inner hard plate like lacinium. Okay, so the endopodite is further having two parts. Okay, the outer broad hood-like galea and the inner hard plate lacinium. Inner hard plate lacinium, outer broad hood-like galea. Okay, these are the parts of endopodite. And protopodite, the parts are proximal, cardo, and distal stipes. Lacinium. Lacinium tapers into two sharp claw-like projections. Lacinium tapers into two sharp claw-like projections. It also bears strong sensory bristles at its inner surface. Okay, so Lacinium tapers into two sharp claw-like projections, it also bears strong sensory bristles at its inner surface. The Lecinia, it tapers into two sharp claw-like projections. It also bears strong sensory bristles at its inner surface. There are strong sensory bristles which are present on the inner surface of, Lecinia. And Lecinia, it basically tapers into two sharp claw-like projections. Then comes the third part, exopodite. It consists of small basal sclerite. So exopodite is having a small basal sclerite. The palpifer attached to the outer surface of stipes, and the five jointed maxillary palp. There is a five jointed maxillary palp with sensory bristles. Okay, so there is a presence of five jointed maxillary palp with sensory bristles. So exopodite, it basically have basal sclerite, presence of basal sclerite. Okay, the palpifer attached to the outer surface of stipes. There is a presence of palpifer on the outer surface of the stipes, and a five jointed maxillary palp. There is a presence of five jointed maxillary palp. Okay, maxillary palp is of five jointed. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Five jointed maxillary palp. Okay, which is attached to the outer surface of stipes. Okay, with sensory bristles. With the help of Lecinia, it holds the food and gives to mandible. Okay, so with the help of Lecinia, it holds the food, it grasps the food and gives it to the mandible. Understood? Now, maxilla are used for cleaning the antenna. It helps to clean the antenna and the first pair of legs. It helps to clean the antenna and first pair of legs. Maxillary palps respond to touch, taste, and smell. Maxillary palps respond to touch, taste, and smell. Okay, I'll come up the points again. Okay, in the next class, I will be showing you with detailed diagrams of each categories, and I will repeat all the points again because it needs at least two times, go through. Okay, so maxillae, the first maxillae, the three parts: protopodite, endopodite, and exopodite. Protopodite, it is the basal portion of the maxilla. Okay, and it is having two parts: forward cardo, backward stipes, proximal cardo, and distal stipes. Endopodite, it arises from the inner part of the stipes, and it is further having two parts: the outer broad hood-like, gallia, and the inner lecinia, heart plate-like lecinia. Okay, inner heart plate-like lecinia. Gallia is outside and lecinia is inside. The lecinia further tapers to form claw-like projections. Okay, it also bears strong sensory bristles in its inner surface. Understood? Exopodite, it consists of small basal sclerite. Exopodite is basically having small basal sclerite. Okay. The palpifer attached to the outer surface of the stipes. And five jointed maxillary palp with the sensory bristles. Okay. Lecinia help to hold food and gives to the mandible, and maxillae, they help to clean the antenna and the first pair of legs. Maxillary palps respond to touch, taste, and smell. Then comes labium, or the second maxilla. Labium, or the second maxilla. It is also called lower lip. It is also known as lower lip. It is unpaired and represents fused second pair of maxilla. Okay. Labium is the second maxilla, also known as second maxilla. It represents actually the fused second maxilla, second pair of maxilla. Okay. It is unpaired and it is also known as lower lip. It is also having three parts: protopodite, which is large proximal part. The protopodite having a large proximal part known as submentum. Submentum is the large proximal part of labium. Middle small mentum, and then prementum, and distal is prementum. Submentum and mentum, they make postmentum. Okay, and they represent fused cardos. Okay, and they represent basically fused cardos. Okay, cardos, they were the proximal part of the stipes. Okay, mean protopodite in case of maxilla, first maxilla. Okay, then prementum, it represents fused portion of two stipes. Stipes were the distal and proximal, distal. So fused cardos means proximal, mentum and submentum, and stipes distal, prementum. Endopodite, they are partially fused. They are partially fused and represented by lingula. Lingula is having half parts. Half part is inner glossa and other half part is outer paraglossa. Okay. So endopodite, they are partially fused and represented by lingula. The inner half part of lingula is glossa and the outer half part is known as what? Paraglossa. Okay. Then exopodite, it consists of two parts, a small sclerite is there, palpiger, okay, in case of palpifer, palpiger is there in labium and palpifer in case of maxilla, and three jointed labial palp. There in case of maxilla, 5 maxillary jointed palps were there. Here, 3 jointed labial palps are there. 3 jointed labial palps are there, bearing sensory bristles attached to the palpiger. Here, palpiger is there. In maxilla, it was palpifer. Okay. So, exopodite, it consists of two parts, a small sclerite, palpiger, and a three-jointed labial palp. Three-jointed labial palp bearing sensory bristles attached to the palpiger, which is attached to the palpiger. Okay. Yeah. Here you can see the paraglossa, prementum. Okay. This is the labial palp, maxillary palp, 5 jointed. Okay, and first maxilla. Okay, while labium is known as what? Second maxilla. First maxilla or maxilla. Understood? This is mentum, prementum, okay, and submentum. Postmentum. They combine to form postmentum. Okay. Hypopharynx. Hypopharynx, also known as lingua. Okay. Hypopharynx is the fleshy sensory structure, also termed as tongue or lingua. It is centrally placed, bounded dorsally. By mandibles. Okay. Ventrally by the labium and laterally by maxilla. So it is centrally placed, bounded dorsally by mandibles. Okay. Ventrally by the labium and laterally by maxilla. Okay. So the hypopharynx or the lingua is surrounded by dorsal mandible, ventral, labium, and lateral by maxilla. A membrane from the inner border of the labium. There is a inner border of labium, and from which a membrane which runs continuous with its ventral side. Okay, so the membrane run continuous with the ventral side. Okay, it helps in the passage, or it helps to drive the salivary secretions. The salivary duct opens in the middle of the ventral side. Okay, so the middle of the ventral side of hypopharynx, it basically have the opening of salivary duct. Okay, and near its base. Okay, so hypopharynx at near its base and at the ventral side of the hypopharynx, there is an opening of salivary duct. Okay, which helps in the lubrication. Okay. Membrane from the inner border of the labium is continuous with the ventral side. So these are the mouth parts we have discussed. In the next class, I will be explaining with the help of diagrams. It will become very easy, very comfy for you to understand. Okay. Till then, everyone, bye bye. Take care. Stay safe. Stay at home.